You're listening to Our Space with Matt Batisse.
We're doing another exciting guest interview on Our Space with Matt Batisse. Remember to subscribe and follow the show for more of these. Saturdays at Your Place, one of those bands on the scene that if you haven't heard of yet, you're missing out. If you've heard of them, you're excited for their upcoming record. These Things Happen to release September 12th. I've been sitting on this album for a couple of weeks now, and I do want to start out the show by saying that it's absolutely fantastic. The wait is going to be so worth it. The day it was actually sent to me ended up being a pretty stressful day in my life due to some things going on. And I remember throwing it on, driving around, listening to it and thinking, wow, this is such a chill and raw emotional emo record. I love this. So I'm really excited for you to hear it. And I'm really excited for this chat today. Although one thing I noticed about the record is it's only about 24 minutes, which felt short to me. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that today because we're joined by Esden of Saturdays at Your Place to talk about the band and the new record and a whole lot more. Esden, thank you so much for joining today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That's pretty cool.
I really want to get in depth on the new record, but let's chat about the band first. So growing up in Kalamazoo, that's had a really big influence on the sound and the titles and your music. So tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up there, forming the band in university, and how it's impacted the band.
Yeah. So I grew up in a small town called Marcellus. It's like not far from Kalamazoo. I moved up here. I mean, I was always around this area, you know, because it's so close. It's like the closest city to my very small hometown. But I moved up here to go to college at Western Michigan University, probably in 2018, I think. So I've been here for quite a while. And I met Mitch and Gabe through a mutual friend. Me and Gabe were actually in the same program at Western Michigan. It was like a music recording and like production program, and neither of us graduated. I actually dropped out to go on our first like DIY tour, which at the time seemed absolutely ridiculous, but it worked out okay. But Mitch graduated with a chemistry degree, and he was working at a place called Pfizer up until like our first like bigger tour. He had to quit for that. But yeah, we met doing all that at the college. We were kind of in like a crappy punk band where we just kind of played for fun and did whatever. And then eventually, over probably like a year or two, like we just decided to start taking it more seriously. And there's a big house show scene in Kalamazoo. It's a great platform for like smaller artists to like get their foot in the door. It's one of those places on DIY tours. A lot of bands, smaller bands, will book Kalamazoo in between like their Detroit and Chicago shows. So it's right smack dab in the middle of there. So it gets a lot of like love from like touring DIY bands. Like before I even joined a band, like I saw some pretty crazy shows in like Kalamazoo basements. Like back when Dogleg was still around, I saw them. Like I saw Mover Shaker, which was a pretty big Michigan band. Nice, a band from Minneapolis. Like Gami's come through here a couple of times. Like Pool Kids, I saw Pool Kids, and Greet Death, which is like my favorite Michigan band. But there's just a lot of like very cool shows, and like a lot of up and coming bands come through here. So there is like a platform to like meet people and like grow your band from there.
It sounds like the scene over there, it's like a small but big scene based off of what you're saying.
Yeah. Like there's an area in Kalamazoo called the Vine neighborhood. Some people refer to it as the student ghetto, but it's basically like all these old like historic houses where like college kids live. People that don't necessarily want to do like or can't afford like on-campus housing because that's more expensive. But renting out in this neighborhood is usually a little cheaper, but it it's created this area where there's basement shows in this whole neighborhood, and like you can walk to any basement show any given night. And it's even today, like if I wanted to go find a show to go to tonight, I probably could. Like, and I could just go walk there.
That's amazing. And that's rare. I mean, even in some bigger cities, to walk in and just be able to have an emo show always happening where you can go and check out some awesome bands and knowing where to go and whatnot. But at the same time, you mentioned that you dropped out of university to go and do the first tour and go all in on the band. What was the moment in your mind where you're like, oh, okay, we might actually have something here. Let's drop out and go all in?
It definitely seemed crazy at the time to like make that decision. But there was like I do remember a specific moment where it was like the first show we started out in 2021, right after the pandemic. We were one of the first house shows back. Like, and we kind of we were touring or playing shows like crazy in Kalamazoo, like sometimes up to 3 times in a week, just in the same city, which is nuts looking back at it. But we just were like, we said yes to everything. But there was a moment after we took like a few month break, and then we came back, and I remember like the whole basement was singing one of our songs, and I was just like, this is pretty cool. Like, I think people are actually like digging this. And we just kind of didn't stop from there. And then eventually we like had our first DIY tour, and man, it had to be 2023 is like when we went on our first like outside of the Midwest tour. But I was supposed to go back to college that fall semester, and I remember just choosing the tour just because that's kind of what I wanted to do. And like we had just recorded Always Cloudy, so we had that like under our belts at the time. And I remember like thinking part of the reason I was willing to take the gamble is because I was thinking like, we got this new EP coming out. Like we think it's pretty good. Like we're pretty proud of it, and we worked really hard on it. So I was like, well, why not just try it? So, and then that's how it happened.
That's amazing. Your college will always be there, right? But it's like, you know, you got something that you felt was so special that it was like, all right, let's just go all in. And if it doesn't pan out, college is still there.
Right. And it's like, now's the time the mindset too then was like, now's the time to do this. Like, this is something we all really want to do. So, you know, we're going to take this opportunity to do it, even if it is just this one tour and it goes absolutely nowhere. Like, we still got to do the experience, like, for a little bit. And that was kind of our mindset.
It worked out. So good on you for going all in. Who were some of the bands that you grew up listening to that made you want to get into music, and in particular emo music?
So I didn't learn how to play an instrument until 2018, or the end of 2017 is when I started. So I've only been playing bass for that long. It's a long time now looking back at it, but it doesn't feel that long compared to a lot of other people. But the band that got me into it was I was big into like West Coast, like punk music, like NoFX and like Rancid, and like, I guess they're not West Coast, but Alkaline Trio, like that whole, like all of like the Fat Wreck's bands, like that was kind of what got me into this, or like the alternative side of music. And I wanted to play bass because like Fat Mike and Matt Freeman, and those two bands are just like two of the best bass players ever. And I just thought it was so cool that they could play the bass like that. So I kind of wanted to learn bass. So that was like kind of what inspired me to pick up the instrument. But as far as like playing this type of like music, it's pretty funny in retrospect. But at the time I found out, or it was like 2018, and I found out about Mom Jeans. And it's funny because that band is influenced by all these other bands that most people were listening to when they grew up. But for me, I kind of skipped out that whole like genre of music and went straight to Mom Jeans for some reason. I think just because like one of my buddies liked them. But that band really got me into it, and then I like started digging back deeper from there. But like, and then like, you know, like Mobo and Prince Daddy and the Hyena is like my favorite band ever. So like I found all those, but it was Mom Jeans that got me into it.
That's so funny that it was Mom Jeans. And I love that too, because I remember, so my younger brother, before he started getting into the Midwesty stuff, he just did not like it. Like I showed him Mobo and he was just like, I don't like this, whatever. Right. And then Mom Jeans popped up on one of his Spotify playlists. And he's like, Matt, you listen to this band Mom Jeans, right? Like this sounds like the type of music that you're listening to. And I'm like, hell yeah, I love Mom Jeans. He's like, one of their songs popped up on one of these playlists. I started listening to it, really liked them, started, listening to them, and I really love them. I'm like, okay, now that you're into one band within that style of music, go back and listen to Modern Baseball again, and go back and listen to this band, that band, that band. And now it's like his favorite genre.
It's like a gateway band. At least for me, that's really how it was. Like, that's what's cool about these bands like Mom Jeans and Hot Mulligan. Like, they're raising the ceiling on the scene right now, which is like, it's awesome. Like, we've gotten to meet them now, and they're great guys, and they're just like all the rest of us doing their thing. But they're raising that ceiling for everybody, and it's very cool. Like that, we all have the opportunity to like grow to I wouldn't say mainstream, but a little less underground audience. Like there are like more and more people getting into this style of music, and it's cool to have those bands raising that ceiling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the main demographic of this show is sort of the millennials that grew up just as myself listening to emo music, and that just genuinely love the genre of music that continue to evolve and listen to the current bands now. Right. So I think that there's just like, I don't know if emo music will ever be as big as it was in the 2000s, just because we've taken away mainstream media eyes on like things like MTV, and now we're more geared towards algorithms. Yeah. But seeing how big the genre has sort of resurged and how it's giving life for bigger bands, and now Warped Tour coming back, and bands like yourself and Carpool and Cliff Diver and all these other bands that are playing Warped Tour, and people are going and discovering these bands. And there's sort of this resurgence where it's cutting through the algorithms without needing a mainstream type of format like the radio or MTV that was forcing everyone. Like if you ask anybody whether they listen to emo music growing up or not, if in my age range, if they know who, Rise Against or AFI or any of their, or My Chemical Romance are, like they were listening to Britney Spears, but they still knew who My Chemical Romance was because it would be Britney Spears into My Chemical Romance on MTV, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I just feel like we don't have that anymore, but seeing the emo scene break through and be resilient through that has been incredible to watch. And I still feel like there is a space for emo music to cut through all of that and hit sort of the mainstream side of things. And we're seeing bands like Hot Mulligan do it. Like so many people like Hot Mulligan are cutting through all of that and sort of being that band for everyone, which I think is really, really cool. And also emo shows are a lot more diverse now than they were back then.
Yeah, I think that's like one thing that makes people fall in love with it is like going to the shows too, and like just seeing that everybody's welcome. Like it's we're all into the same thing. We're all friends here. Everybody's so different, but everybody's friends. It's awesome.
Yeah, and you see like, people dressed up in different ways. Like, I don't know, back then in the day, it was like all the emo kids looked like emo kids. All the punk kids looked like punk kids. And now you're just kind of getting that diverse. You go into a Saturdays at Your Place show and you've got some kids that look like they might be preppy kids, but they're like really into the emo scene. You've got kids that look really emo. There's a lot more people of color in the audiences, which I love to see. A lot more trans people in the audience that are outliving their life as they are, which is amazing to see as well, and see how supportive that the community and the scene is for just everyone. And that's one thing that I think that the scene has really grown and evolved into that I love to see.
Me too. I think that that's like one thing I'm most proud of, like as far as like our shows go, is like that environment, like that's like safe space. I don't know what else to call it, but it's like just everybody can feel comfortable, everybody can be themselves, because ultimately that's like what we're doing on stage. Like Tades from Hot Mulligan always says this, but like we look stupid up there. Like we're being idiots, you know, like we're doing some really dumb shit. So if we're up there being goofy and like joking around, like it just everybody else can let loose, you know, have fun. So that is one thing just like about the scene in general that I'm very proud of.
You know, it's actually funny that you brought that up because I'm going to combine a couple of things that we've talked about already leading into that. But one of the funniest comments that I've seen online talking about the Midwest emo stuff and those older bands, and now what you just said about Tades, one of the funniest comments that I saw on one of your YouTube videos was, if American football enjoyed themselves.
Yeah, I saw that one recently. I was like, that's pretty good. That's really good.
That was on your Waste Away video, and I was like, that is freaking hilarious. Have you had any other funny comments that have really stuck out with you?
Oh, I really like this one for some reason, but the newest song, there was a comment that was somebody said we made a John Mayer song. I thought that was great. I was like, yeah, we did. And they put it with a heart too, so you know they were excited about it. You know, they liked it, but I was like, yeah, I'm glad you see the vision.
They were like, listen, I really love the song and I don't want you to take this as an insult, but yeah, I have to throw this out there.
Yeah. And then there was another one. There was another one on Twitter, and I thought this was really funny too. Is like, it's like I've never seen the singer for Saturdays at Your Place, but I didn't think he looked like that. And it got like a bunch of engagement, but I was like, I wish they would have specified, you know, maybe you know, I think they just think I'm very handsome. You
That
know,
must be it.
I think that they think I'm very handsome, and they noticed, you know, and I'm glad that they're pointing out my good looks.
I think that's exactly what happened. Speaking, like, the band has actually had a lot of success online, especially starting out with tarot cards. That's gone viral a few times. Tell me a little bit about what that was like when you started seeing people that you didn't know posting with that song and seeing that song going viral.
That was pretty crazy because it happened like slowly. Like you think about like things going viral and it's like very, very quick and fast paced, and you think that it's overnight, but I think it almost worked in our benefit that it happened a little slower, because when it first came out, there would be like every once in a while, there'd be a TikTok that would use the sound and it would blow up. And then like a month or two later, the same thing. And then a month or two later, it'd be on Instagram Reels. And it would be like chunks of like growing an audience. And I think that that really worked in our benefit, because like it didn't happen so fast that our like monthly listeners outgrew our crowd. One of the hardest parts, I think, for bands that like hit that algorithm is like, how do we translate this to live shows, and how do we get these people out to like come and see us and like find this environment that we've worked pretty hard to create, where people can just hang out. And I think that because it happened a little bit slower like that, and it was almost like a trickle, it definitely worked in our advantage.
Yeah, having that slow trickle, almost like it just builds the fan base little by little, versus, oh, this is a viral song and I like it for 15 minutes and then it's gone and I don't care about it anymore. And that was like the TikTok song and it's gone.
Yeah, that's like, I think we were kind of lucky to not have it happen all at once, even though like I could be wrong in saying that, because it could have happened all at once and it could have been a lot bigger. But at the same time, I think that we were able to like pace ourselves with that, like, and just make sure that we're playing shows like we should, and like just filling out the smaller rooms first. Like you gotta, it's really important bands like grow like that. Like just play the smaller rooms and upgrade when you need to, but don't play bigger rooms than you have to.
Yeah, I mean, that's smart. You're building the fan base based off of what you can actually handle and not growing too fast, because sometimes growing too fast isn't necessarily the best thing either.
Right, because there's like you'll see bands that have that happen, and there's a big gap between the amount of people coming to the shows and the amount of people streaming it. Like if you look, like different genres from emo, like indie rock, for example, like the culture in indie rock is not going to shows, but
Mm-hmm.
in emo, the whole culture is going to shows. Like that's what people live for. It's like
Yeah.
everybody's hobbies. So like we're lucky to be in this scene to where like 200,000 monthly listeners goes a long way compared to maybe like an indie band with a million monthly listeners. Like, it just, I think that the people that are in this scene really care about just going out and having fun.
I think the one thing that I love about the emo scene as well is that people are more likely to actually support the bands and
Yeah.
show up at the shows, like you said, but also buy the merch, wear the merch, like buy the records versus, casual fans as like an indie rock band.
Yeah. And I'm that way
Um,
too. All of my favorite bands, I'm wearing their shirts all the time. Like it's just part of like it's almost a point of pride. Like, yeah, I'm involved in the scene.
I also think that like knowing what I know now, and I mean, as a kid, you just think, oh, the band that I like, whatever venue I'm seeing them in, like they're like this big rich band because they're playing in a band and I'm buying a ticket to go and see them, right? And then you become an adult and you're like, oh, okay, no, these bands are actually going home after tour and working a day job because they're not making that much money. So I'm like, I
No.
want to go and spend that $40 on a t-shirt because I want to support them. And I feel like if I do that, maybe they get bigger, maybe they make enough money to write a new record, and then I get new music from the band that I love. Right. So I'm like, that's where I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know if as many people think the way that I do, but that's my mentality of it. Like I walk into a show, I go to that merch. I went to go see Linkin Park last night. They don't need
Hmm.
my money. I didn't buy a t-shirt. I spent $200 on floor seats, like
Right.
whatever. They got my money. That's it. But like, I will go to an emo show, buy the ticket, and then I'll go and buy like 2 t-shirts and a couple of vinyls and like walk out and be like, okay, I did my part. I supported that way. But they need my money and they need my support. Linkin Park does not.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still love
Especially
them.
like,
Still going to see them, but I'm not going to go and drop $60 on a t-shirt.
or $90 on a hoodie.
Yeah, exactly. It was like
Yeah.
$80 for this really cool like Linkin Park jersey, but I'm like, I'm not spending $85 on a Linkin Park jersey. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. It does get crazy how expensive the merch gets at those bigger shows. But I think that, like people are so willing to support, like you said, like it, and like, especially what's cool is we've done a lot of tour where we've been like, we've been the first, like on the Wax tour, we've been the first of 4. We were the first of 4 on that lineup, and people were lining up to get our merch like just as much as they were for Arm's Length or Carly or Ben Quad. Like they supported all 4 of us pretty equally, and we've been lucky enough that people are willing to give out that support because I don't think at those bigger shows, especially, I doubt the band that's like first of 3 or first of 4 is getting similar merch sales to the bands that are headlining.
No, I mean, I saw
Not even close.
last summer I saw Pup open up for Alexis on Fire. I'm from Toronto, and both of
Oh,
those
cool.
are Toronto bands. And so you would think at that show that more people would actually be there for Pup. And like I got there early, went to go and see Pup. I love Pup, right?
Me
And
too.
we're standing around and we're singing every single lyric and every single line of see, and we're looking around like half the stadium is empty, and we're like, what is happening? They're going on before Alexis on Fire. Half of it's empty. People like that were there didn't necessarily know or care about their songs. And it was like me and my friends that were singing along. And then the second Pup ended and Alexis on Fire was coming on, the whole thing completely filled out. And that's the thing. And, as a band, like even like Alexis on Fire, a lot of people just show up for that main band. Whereas
Hmm.
in the emo scene, it's like, oh, okay, well, I really like, I saw you guys recently at Hard Luck in Toronto
Yeah.
with Harrison Gordon. Love him. He was on the show as well. And Carpool, they were both on the show as well. Got there right at doors because it's like, all right, let's go and see all the bands, because it's like everybody within that emo scene kind of feels like they're on a similar level. And if you don't know who
Yeah.
a band is and you show up early, you're walking out with one more band to add to your playlist.
I think that's what a lot of fans know that too. Like, if I haven't heard of this band, I better check them out because there's a good chance I'm gonna like them. Like, that's how a lot of people find music in our scene. Like, that's how I would find music. I would go to, like, I obviously had Apple Music or Spotify or whatever, but on top of that, I would go to house shows in Kalamazoo and be like, let's see if I can find a cool Kalamazoo band that I like. And I would like find some. I'd be like, man, this is pretty sweet. This band is from here.
Man, I can't tell you how many bands I discovered just because they opened up for another band that I like. Especially the Wonder Years are notorious for bringing on younger, really cool bands. Like, if it wasn't for the Wonder Years, I would have never found Sweet Pill. I would have never found Anxious. Like, all of these bands that have opened up for them recently on tours, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. I also feel like there's this thing within the scene because it feels like it's so small and so big, and maybe you can help touch on this. Are you more inclined to bring your friends on tour and bands that you actually like, or is there an outside influence to bring in other bands on tour?
For us, it's mostly just the friend part. You know, like, it starts as us being like a fan of the band's music, right? And then the most important part after that is like, can we hang out with these guys for 6 weeks? Like, can we do that? So
it's a big commitment.
Yeah, no, it's a lot, and it's like you want to make sure that everybody's going to get along, and most 95% of the time it's exactly like that. But like, I remember before booking our Always Cloudy tour, we played a show with Harrison Gordon, and it was just one show, and we all got in the van after that, and we're like, I'd tour with them. They were really cool. like we were interested before, but now we know we're like really interested because they're cool guys. And same with Trash on that. Like, I really like Trash, and I got into them like heavy last year. But I was like, I don't know them, you know, and then we booked a show with them, and it was like, oh yeah, we like these guys. These guys are our friends, you know. So, and Carpool was another story because we actually met Carpool. We opened for Carpool the first time they came through Kalamazoo. We were like the local opener for Carpool, and we met them that way. So that was like really cool to, like, I remember being such a huge fan of their band when we got that offer, and it was just a big deal for us as like the local band. But like, getting to give that back was really cool. And like, those guys, I mean, you saw them. They're some of the best live performers in the scene, like Staff and just the whole band. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love Carpool. There's so much love in my heart for Carpool. They're awesome. They were the ones that actually invited me out to DC for Warped Tour. So
Awesome.
Yeah, Staff and I have become friends, and they're I love so much. Like I said, so much love for Carpool. So they're awesome, and they put on a killer show. And that's one of those things too, is right. It's like you're touring with bands that are putting on a killer show that you know can support and help grow that scene as well. I want to continue talking about touring and all that, but I want to go back to one question. I want to make sure that I don't miss this because we were talking also about tarot cards. The pronunciation, I got to know. Is that how you actually say it? Was that for the song? Like, was it because of a rhyming scheme? Like, what's the story behind pronouncing tarot wrong?
It was, so I say tarot. Yeah. Everybody in the comments always says it's a Midwestern accent, which I find it really funny because I am told that I have a pretty strong Midwestern accent, but that is definitely not part of it. I think it just like the way that word needed to be enunciated, because I don't know anything about music theory, so I'm sorry that I'm going to be explaining this so poorly. But the way that tarot, if it was, they're pulling out the tarot cards, like you're putting too much, you're giving too much time to say that. But if you say tarot, I did that because like I could say it in the cadence that I wanted to. It was about the cadence of the song. And then somebody pointed out that I could have done it I could have said tarot right if I like backed up one beat in the measure and been like, they're pulling out the tarot cards, but I just don't think that has the same flow.
Not as
You know?
catchy.
No. So like it was all just cadence because I really wanted I usually write melody first or like in rhythm, like before I like put vocal lines on. But this I do think was one that all came at once. But the melody and rhythm is equally as important as the lyrics, if not more, in a lot of like places, I think. So that's why. And I never really thought it was going to be a thing, but it worked out in our favor because I think some of the posts went viral because people were arguing about it in the comments.
Absolutely. I think that was it was this weird attention getter for me the first time that I heard the song. And first time I heard the song was from a random TikTok post. And I was like, why are they saying it weird? I don't like that. But this is also really, really catchy. And I really like it. And I really like the chorus. And it's catchy. It got my attention. So it was like, you know, it grabs your attention, and then the catchiness and then the lyrics all hook you in. And you're just like, oh, okay, I fuck with it. It still bothers me, but I fuck with it.
It's so funny. For me, when we were writing that song, I didn't think anybody was going to be listening. So it's just like, you know, you don't think that once you put something on the internet, it's not yours anymore. Like you just put it out there and then it belongs to the internet now. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's like, I didn't even think about it that hard because I was like, yeah, this is good. You know, like
It's a good song.
I was like, I think this is right. And the part after it, like I had like workshopped a little bit, but I didn't finish writing that whole like section until like 20 minutes before I went in to record the vocals for it. Like I had that section, I just couldn't get it right. And then I like finally solidified it like the first 20 minutes or the last 20 minutes before I had to go in there and sing it.
I love that. I'm glad we got that out of the way. I needed
Yeah.
to get that off my chest.
No, I'm glad I can finally explain it.
And so we've kind of been talking a little bit about the live performances. I mentioned that I saw you guys in DC. I feel like you're younger than I am, and I know that Warped Tour ended in like 2018. Have you ever been to a Warped Tour before?
Yeah, I went in 2017, but that was the only year. If you went to our merch table, you probably met Tyson, or you know Tyson, but Tyson, our manager and tour manager, went. He went a ton as a kid. I remember because his dad's favorite band was Motion City Soundtrack, so he got to see them a ton. And Mitch, I know, went a lot. I think Gabe went a couple times, but I only got to go the once. But like I remember like the hype around it. I was just a little bit too young, I think, to like be there when it was really a thing.
Okay. Because I could kind of tell when I was there which bands were like really cheesing hard because they were like, holy crap, I'm playing Warped Tour. Like bands like Carpool and Cliff Diver, like you saw them on stage and they were like, whoa, this is real. Like this is like I'm actually playing Warped Tour. I spent so many years going there. Was that a special performance for you guys as a band being on that stage, or was it just sort of like any other show?
It's like a little bit of both. I think for Mitch it was a little more special because I think he went so much. For me, it was very cool, but it's just, especially on those big festival stages, it all happens so fast. And this, like right before our set, was actually the one time in our, like, since we've been a band or since we've even gotten in-ear monitors, it was the one time I couldn't find my in-ear monitors. Like, so I got up there, plugged all my stuff in, went to grab my in-ears, and I was like, where the hell are they? And I was like, of course, right now is like the one time that happens. So
you've only got 25 minutes too, so it's not like you can waste 5 minutes looking for them.
No, I was like, I ran up to Tyson. I'm like, dude, like you got to run to the van and go get extra in-ears. Like, I'm sorry. He had to like sprint to our van, which is in a parking lot, like pretty far away. and he like got back covered in sweat, and it was probably like 5 minutes before we were supposed to go on, and he came back with him, and it was just like, oh man, why did that happen right now? But there was like, it's just chaos. Like it's moving so fast. Like I didn't really get a chance to like sit and think. I was just like, I better make sure that we play the set on time.
You're going on tour this fall with Riley and Carly Cosgrove, and you're going to be on the road for a while, North America, and then Europe and the UK. Is this your first time overseas?
It's our third, but it's our first time headlining. We've only been to the UK. We haven't been anywhere else yet, but we supported Free Throw last summer, and we supported Gami in January, early February in the UK.
So you've already kind of got an idea of what it's like touring overseas. What are you doing to prepare this time around?
I think that the Europe stuff is going to be that's going to be a learning curve. But our manager, Tyson, is great. So I really don't have to worry about anything other than just like getting myself there. And it's a lot of fun because in the US, like we do all the driving, like we have our own van, and like we haven't ever had a driver. So that's always like, and the drives in the US are so long, especially once you get over to the West Coast. It can be hell because you're driving like 6 hours every morning before the show.
Oh, brutal.
If you're lucky. But like over there, it feels like such a vacation to me because we have one of our friends named Summers who TMs a bunch of bands over there, but he does our driving and has his own van because none of us are crazy enough to try and drive a whole tour on the opposite side of the road.
I was going to say, that's like extra dangerous. I remember the first time that I went to the UK and just being in the car and seeing us on the other side of the road thinking we were going to die.
Me too. Every time they take a left turn, you're like, oh, but you forget that left turn, yeah, it's like a right turn. So like they've got no one to yield to. It's so funny. And when you
even crossing the road, you're like,
whoa.
I need to look both ways because I don't know which side the car is going to come from, and I don't know which way. Like you're like looking this way, and then all of a sudden you take a step in, and a car comes this.
Yeah, that is something. Like apparently, I don't know if this was just a joke, but somebody told me that like a lot of Americans get hit by cars over there because they're looking the wrong way when they cross the street.
I believe it.
I just always am like, I really got to take my time before I cross any street because I don't know what's going on. But I think that that's the best part for me is like not having to drive. And there are such short drives. Europe might be a little different. So we'll see. I'll report back to you on that. But especially the UK, it's kind of a breeze.
And if you're in Europe or the UK, hopefully it's easy for you to get to a show. So make sure you head on over to their website and buy your tickets on this tour. If you hadn't heard of Riley and Carly Cosgrove either, well, Riley and Carly Cosgrove aren't going to be with you on the UK and Europe dates, are they?
Yeah, they're not on. We do have some support coming for those shows, but it can't be announced yet. So
okay,
I think our friends over there will be happy.
Okay, well, keep an eye out, get those tickets, and then you'll just be pleasantly surprised with whoever's opening. But even if you're in UK and Europe, you should check out Riley and Carly Cosgrove because those are two other awesome bands. And get your tickets for that show because, listen, if they're touring with Carly Cosgrove and Riley in North America, I trust that they're going to have some awesome support in the UK and in Europe as well. So we just had a whole conversation about seeing other bands on tour. So go and get those tickets.
I like to think we have pretty good taste.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If looking at your past bills and past tours, I mean, there hasn't been a dud yet. So let's keep up that roll. Let's talk about the new music because I mentioned earlier, it's a shorter record. Now let's get into that. Is there a reason for that? Was there a conversation about length?
No, but I mean, there was when it was shaping up, but a lot of, I mean, the main story behind this record is that like, we've been working on it for years. We had all these ideas for what it was going to be, and we just like you put a lot of pressure on yourself, right? Like to the big second album. Like that's just a big one for any artist. And we kind of just been working on it for so long, and then we went to the studio and it all fell into place like all at once. And like that's kind of the meaning behind the name of the record. Like These Things Happen is from my favorite movie ever, is Magnolia, the Paul Thomas Anderson movie. And that movie basically is about like all these different characters and different stories that kind of crash into each other, but for no reason whatsoever, just because things happen. Like these things happen. So that's like part of the reason it's called that, is because I like, and you've heard it, you probably can kind of understand that, because especially like with me and Gabe's songs, they're telling different stories, but all the stories are related, because you know we are like friends, and all of this stuff is happening in our lives as we're writing and touring. But it honestly is just so short, because I probably wrote like 30 1-minute songs for this, like 1-minute song ideas, and none of them felt good enough. And it's just really hard to be decisive about something like this, especially since this is our first release with an audience now. So it was like pretty nerve-wracking, because you start to view songs like products, and you really don't want to do that. So like I got in the habit of, as soon as I started like doubting a song, I'd set it down, be like, all right, I got to come back to this. But I think part of the reason it's so short is because once we got those 10 songs, we were like, we had some other songs we were thinking about adding, but they just didn't seem right. Like we got the sequencing and the idea for it. We were like, this feels like the record. Like we think that this is the record, you know, and we didn't want to add any songs that we weren't fully competent in. You never just want to throw stuff on, at least for us. We never want to throw stuff on just to fill time. We'd rather be short and sweet than a little bit too long. Keep them wanting more, not less, right?
You know what? I actually do appreciate that as well, because, and I think I've had this conversation on another podcast before, when it comes to records, I'd actually prefer one that's shorter, leaving me wanting more, than one that overstays its welcome, because if you've got that lull in the middle or at the end, it sort of ruins that record. So a record that doesn't overstay its welcome,
yeah,
and leaves you wanting more, is definitely preferred.
The one that comes to mind for me is Never Hungover Again. Like that record is so short, but every song is so fucking catchy.
Yeah.
Like it's just, and you get to the end and you're like, damn, got to listen to it again. You know?
Yeah. I actually find that like last year, we had this discussion on another podcast as well, that Knock Loose's record from last year was that perfect sort of like, 25, 30 minute, here blasts your face off and then it's done. And it was like, oh, okay. Like it didn't overstay its welcome at all, compared to a few other records that came out last year where they were about an hour and 15. And when I see that hour and 15, I'm like, that's too long. Like, that's like a 3-hour podcast. Like that's Lord of the Rings at that point. I'm not listening to it. Like it's just over. Like it's, yeah. So the short length, it definitely does leave you wanting more with this record. Were there any songs that maybe got cut that you wish didn't get cut?
In hindsight, most of the songs that got cut were like my songs that I was writing lyrics for, and I just wasn't fully confident in the lyrics. And I just, like this album especially, like I was dealing with like a bit of writer's block. I don't think I knew what it was at the time, but like once I realized, I was questioning like everything that I was writing down. I was like, oh, maybe this is what writer's block is, because like I can write, like I can write a bunch, but not being sure of what you're writing is like, I think that was like what I was really struggling with. And like we had 4 more songs that were like, all of the instrumentals were done, and like I probably had vocals 95% there on a lot of them, but it just they didn't feel right. Like, and then it was like, I was like, these just, I wish I could have the clarity that I have now, and like understanding what was going on. And I wish that I would have been able to finish them confidently, because looking back, it's like, I thought this song was so bad, but now I'm listening back, I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. Like, so I think eventually those ones might see the light of day. We'll see. We're going to try and put out music more often now. Like, that's one thing. Like, we want to have a more consistent release schedule.
Do you think that there would ever be like a deluxe version of this record come out with those songs, or is this something that maybe you might just save for another release?
We've talked about it. We've talked about like a companion EP, like a year from now or something. But it really just depends. Like, once we're out of like release mode, I have to get back into my groove writing. I'm not much of an artist type or like a musician. Like, I am technically, but like I'm not the guy that like has been doing it so long that I'm well practiced and super confident in my like abilities. Like, it's something that I'm always working on. And I think Gabe would feel the same about himself, even though I think that he's like probably the best writer I know. I think that what matters first is we just kind of get writing and do what feels right. Because I think that that's something that it's one of my greatest strengths, is being able to like trust my gut and like trust the feeling of a song more than anything else. So we'll see. You know, it's it's all up in the air right now. I hope so. I hope it works out like that. But it's like, whatever we're writing next, I never want to put out anything that we're not 100% behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I talked to actually Michael Herrick last year, and I remember he was saying, man, these new Saturdays at Your Place songs are going to rip. You're going to love their new album. So I had actually thought this album was going to come out a lot sooner, because we were talking about your music a year ago. It was like in the summertime. It was probably about a year from now. And like you mentioned, the release schedule, it's been a while since you released some new music leading up to this album. Is there a reason why? Like, what was the reasoning behind it taking so long to drop this record?
A lot of it was because like the learning curve with like touring and navigating this industry. I think that like we spent, after Always Cloudy like did well, we spent a lot of time like, how do we figure this out? Like, how do we make this sustainable? We learned how to print our own merch. Like, we figured out how to like source vinyl. Like, we did a lot of business stuff, and that at the very beginning, like, I did a lot of business stuff. Me and like Gabe and Mitch did a lot of business stuff, and learned pretty quickly, like, man, if I want to like continue to have this be like my creative outlet, then I have to hand over that side of things. So like my cousin Tyson, he's basically the fourth member of the band. Like, he tours with us, he prints merch with us, like does physical work. Like, a lot of managers just send emails, and there's nothing wrong with that, like, because that's what you need a manager for. But Tyson does that, and then on top of it, he's our record label and our tour manager and our merch shop manager. Like, and I think that like just handing that over to somebody, and just like somebody who we all trust, like, has really helped. And at least for me, like, Saturdays has to be about creating and loving what you create. Like, it can't be about the industry. So that's part of the reason it took so long, is because we were just like trying to get our footing and like make sure that we could do this if we wanted.
Yeah, it sounds like you did everything right, though. Like, you set up that proper foundation, even from going viral to now setting up the business back end side of things. So now you can actually build from the ground up, right? Like, if you have success with this record, which it's a great record, and I imagine that you will have great success with this record, but now at least this way you'll be set up for those pre-orders on the records, for touring, for all of that. So now, you know, you build that foundation, you can actually probably release music more regularly, like you said that you wanted to.
And another thing is too, like, this record, I forgot to mention this, but like, this is the first time we went to the studio for this record. We only had like 3 songs that we knew we wanted to record, And we were there for a week and we didn't have any structure. Like, we just sat down every day and we were like, what do we want to work on right now? And that's like, I mean, you know, this, What Am I Supposed to Do was one of those songs that like we sat down with and we really got to dig into. And I think that like, because we got to do that and like right in the studio, we got to like, that song is almost produced like a pop song. I mean, it is a pop song and a lot for the first half, but like we got to make all these choices that we're really proud of. And the other two songs on the record are Forest Bubbles and I Give In, that we got to do that with the three of the Gabe songs. So like we're super proud of those. And then for the rest of the record, we were kind of in a little bit more of a crunch. So we did like our classic like live tracking, like all three of us in the room recording all at once and then move on. But I think that in the future, like having that option, like a lot of bands I think work really hard to like save up and be able to afford to like go into the studio and write and like just be fully creative. Cause like I think that's like, especially me and Gabe, like we as like the two vocalists in the band, like I think we're really able to work well together in a studio environment. And that's a relationship like I've always appreciated with Gabe. But in the future, I hope we get to do that more. And like I think that that's going to allow us to write quicker, like just going into the studio and booking the time and put a little bit of pressure on, but not too much, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you mentioned those three songs were three of the songs that you recorded differently, but Waste Away was the first single. That one definitely feels like a song about like a deep depression, but funny enough with some happier melodies in there. So talk to me a little bit about writing that song and why it was chosen as the lead single.
I think that one, I mean, it's definitely about a deep depression. But that's like a lot of the stuff I was dealing with. And I mean, I've used a lot of the band as an escape for that type of stuff. But like this theme or this album has a lot more of an existential theme than our previous stuff. Like you probably noticed that, but it's like, it's a little bit, maybe a little bit darker. And I think that I also like, you mentioned Pup. I listen to so much Pup, and they're a huge influence for that song in particular. But like when I was first writing it, I was like, man, this sounds too much like a Pup song. And then once we recorded it, it was like, okay, it kind of sounds like us. But this album is, I wouldn't say it's matured, but it's definitely like, you can tell that we're growing a little bit. So I think that that's part of the reason.
Well, you can definitely tell it. You're going with your sound, with your lyrics, with all of that. In fact, I've actually seen some mentions on the album that the album sort of explores adulthood's messiness.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. Like, what is that? Just because it felt like that was what you were going through at the time of writing the record, or why did you sort of feel that that was the theme of the record?
That's really it. It's mostly just a snapshot in time, which it goes back to like the name, like these things happen. Like this record is just a snapshot in time of like what us three were going through while we were writing it. Like it's pretty honest and just open, and the idea of like all these different songs kind of crashing into each other and working well with each other is just because it's like it's us three individuals like going through our struggles, and that it gets put together, and when we record it we all add our own flavor to each song.
There's also been a lot of attention on your first two singles because they're music videos, working with Tades on those two new music videos. What was that process like of putting together a couple of music videos, especially with someone like Tades?
We've been buddies now for a while, so like it's really fun to like just get to work with your friends. but Tade's also has like he's got an amazing mind as a writer. Like I mean, everybody knows that, but the writing doesn't just go for music; it goes for like scripts and like music videos. Like when we first went to Michael for this video, it was actually Michael's idea to say like, well, what if we had Tade's write it? Because Taze just really likes doing that. And we're like, okay. And then he came up with the ice cream truck idea and wrote all that out. And we're like, all right. And then it kind of turned into Tade's co-directing because it's like the story that he wrote. And then I think it was like that day that we were filming, I was like, hey, dude, you want to write our next one? Like I'll come up with an idea for you and you just write the video. And that's like kind of how it happened. So I knew we had access to that grocery store, and I had kind of had a loose idea of like these two people, you know, the hot cashier and then like the dorky normie guy. And I kind of just told Tades that he wrote the whole thing out, like, and he fully directed this one. Tyson, who's our man, or the guy who wears many hats, he was also the videographer, and he edited the video, did everything. But Tades was there directing. He did all of the directing and made most of the choices on it. So it was really cool, like to get to work with a mind like that. And he's really gifted, but he's also just our buddy. Like we just like hanging out. So I think a lot of it is an excuse to just like hang out and be friends. And me, especially, music videos are one of my favorite things to do. Like it's up there with the studio because I love movies. Like, and I from a young age, like I've loved just making stupid videos, like or messing around and editing videos. But like just getting to do those were a lot of fun. And our next one, I don't know if Tades is going to be involved because he's getting a little bit more busy, but I think that he's taught us like a lot of stuff about writing a video, and we're going to try. I think me and Tyson are going to try our hand at it in this next one. So
That's cool. I'd love to see what ends up coming out of that. And I like to see the extra attention because the thing is like, I know Tades, I don't know Tades personally, but like, I know that and from what I've seen, he supports a lot of other bands with the scene, and he's clearly friends with a lot of people, and he's respected within the scene. He's done a lot of features and has helped a lot of bands out. It's really cool to see him do that for you guys. And obviously he has a lot of attention and a lot of eyes on him within the scene as well. So to see that he's using what they've built up to also help lift up other bands as well. Like that's something that I really, really respect about Tades and Hot Mulligan, even though I've never actually met or talked to them. But it's just like, you can just see that from afar, you know?
No, it's great. I mean, that's like the raising the ceiling thing. Like they know that that's happening. Like, and they're all just great dudes. Like, you know, just buddies, and us being all from Michigan, like I think that helps. Yeah, we definitely hit it off a little bit easier because of that. But it is really cool, and he's singing on it's like I think they call it a canon, is the part in Waste Away. Like Tades is singing on the backing vocal for that. That was our producer Tyler's idea, not Tade specifically, but like to have that big cannon in the background towards the end of the song. I actually
didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah, if you listen closely, you'll hear his little, like, it's not voice cracks, but the way his voice is a little yelpy, you can hear his yelps in there a little bit. So it's not like credited as a feature or anything because it's a lot of backing stuff, but Tades he's on the album in a couple spots, just like because he just wanted to come by and hang out in the studio, you know.
Are there any other spots that we can maybe listen for to see if we can pick up on it? Any other songs?
I think Loon Mobile Part 3, if you just know to listen for it in that song, you'll probably hear it right away because it's like the classic screaming. And I don't know. I'd have to ask our producer, Tyler, who's also, I should mention, is like a huge part of this record. Tyler Floyd, like, that's one of the best parts of like getting to write in the studios, to have his mind with us, because like he also tours with us. He does our live sound as well, but he's just a brilliant mind in the studio, and he really helped us build out these songs and add small parts that we might not have even thought. He even played guitar. Like, he played the guitar solo on What Am I Supposed to Do? Like, in the middle of the song, he did that. He wrote that. But yeah, I'll just have to listen closely because I can't remember if there's any other songs that he's on. But I know for sure the two that you can really hear it on are Waste Away and Lewd Mobile Part 3.
I'm going to have to listen to it again I'm going to listen to it again anyway. I've been listening to it a lot lately, but listening to it again now, knowing to listen for it, and maybe we'll see and see how much it picks up. And if you're watching or listening to this, it's cool because you'll be able to go into it your first time and maybe see if you can pick up on some things. And I don't know, I like listening to music a little bit closer as well, which is always fun. Do you have a favorite song on this record?
I had two favorites, and it's What Am I Supposed to Do? And then I Give In, which is the closing track. But both Gabe songs, like, I'm so proud of those songs. And I guess I'm gonna pick I Give In because it's slow, but man, like, I'm really, really proud of how we wrote that song. And just the story that Gabe is telling is like just pretty beautiful and dark, and it's honestly a little scary. But it's like, I'm very proud of how we built out that song.
That's amazing. Well, make sure if you're listening to this, watching this on YouTube, go and pre-save These Things Happen out September 12th. Go and pre-order the vinyl. Get your tickets to the upcoming Saturdays at Your Place tour. All the details are going to be at SaturdaysAtYourPlace.com, and I'm also going to have links in the description. Remember to like and subscribe. Follow the show as well, wherever you're watching or listening. That's the best way to support the show and continue to get more great chats with either your favorite bands or some of your soon-to-be favorite bands. Before we wrap things up, one of the questions that I ask every single person that comes on the show is to continue growing the scene. Who is an underrated band right now that you have on your playlist that you think everybody else should have on their playlist as well?
This one's actually really easy for me right now because Kerosene Heights is one of the coolest up-and-coming bands right now, and they actually have an album coming out, I think, like next week. But they've got, I think the album's called Blame It on the Weather. The first single on it, called Waste My Time, is like one of the catchiest emo songs I think I've ever heard. And they have a unique sound. His voice is unique, and the guitar playing is very Midwest emo-y. So I think it's like a very refreshing take on the genre.
Another band to go and check out. But yeah, go and add Kerosene Heights to your playlist, and make sure to, once again, pre-save, order the vinyl, and go and catch them on this tour. Esden, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today.
Dude, yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Our Space with Matt Batisse. If you enjoyed yourself, please support the show by subscribing and leaving a review.